Bitcoin investment strategy. How should you go about investing in Bitcoin? Should you buy lump sums, or should you dollar cost average, or should you do a split strategy of you take your capital and you divide it into in half. The first half you buy lump sum, you buy it all at once, and the second half you do like DCA, dollar cost average. Now in this video I'm going to show you all the strategies that you can use to invest in Bitcoin, and we're going to look at the long-term view of 10 to 15 years, and we're going to see how each strategy is going to perform. So I have here a little presentation: Bitcoin investment strategy, which is better, lump sum, dollar cost average, or hybrid, long-term view, 10 to 15 years. So lump sum, let's assume you are going to invest $1,200 all at once at the start. So the pros of lump sum is full exposure early and maximum gain. So let's say Bitcoin now is at 100K, okay, $100,000. You're going to take your $1,200, you're going to put it into Bitcoin. When Bitcoin goes to $200,000 or $1 million, you had full exposure early. So you joined early. In other words, you put all your money at 100K. You didn't put some at 100K, some at 150, some at 180, some at 200, and so on. So you get full exposure early at a lower price. So maximum gains. The cons: risk of Bitcoin drops right after. So to be honest with the con, when it comes to lump sum, if your goal is long-term investment, in other words, you're not going to take that money in like 3 months or a year, or even 6 months. From 3 months, 6 months, or a year, if you're not going to take that money, you shouldn't really care about Bitcoin dropping short term. Sure, you might buy Bitcoin now for 100 and it might drop to 50, or I don't think it's going to drop to 50, but it might. And when it might, you just, get some more money and buy a little bit more. But like I've said, for long-term vision, for long-term strategy, you shouldn't care when Bitcoin goes down, because it's going to keep going up forever. That's why when a lot of people ask me, when should I buy Bitcoin? I just say anytime is a good time to buy Bitcoin. I mean, if you have some spare money, just go buy Bitcoin. You can buy it now, you can buy it when it goes up, buy it when it goes down. You shouldn't really care about the price, okay? So yeah, this is the con of lump sum. You might risk Bitcoin dropping right after you buy, which is completely fine if your goal is long term. And that should be your goal, by the way. I never recommend trading Bitcoin or buying it now and selling it in like 2 or 3 months. I think that's not what you want to do, because you're going to regret the Bitcoin you sold, because it will go up even further in the future. No doubt about that. So this is the lump sum. The next strategy is dollar cost averaging. So with your $1,200, you're going to invest $100 a month for 12 months. So over the period of a year. Pros: lowers the risk of buying at peak, smooths the emotional roller coaster. Now, if you are not truly convinced with Bitcoin, if you don't have conviction, if you haven't done your homework, sure, you might have some kind of emotional roller coaster, especially when Bitcoin dips. But for me, I don't have these emotional roller coasters, because I've done my homework and I understand Bitcoin, and I am sure it will bounce back whenever it dips. So, but if you are new to this and if you haven't done your homework yet, if you still have some doubts, I mean, come on, guys. BlackRock is buying billions of Bitcoins. I mean, companies now are buying it in the millions, and you are still having doubts? Come on. I'm not saying you should appeal to authority. I'm not saying you should buy Bitcoin because BlackRock is buying it. Of course not. You have to do your homework. You have to study it yourself, and you have to be convinced of it. And you have to buy Bitcoin when you understand the Bitcoin. That's all I'm saying. If you don't wanna, how to say, if you don't wanna feel uncomfortable when you invest in Bitcoin. So dollar cost averaging, the pros: lowers the risk of buying at peak, smooths the emotional roller coaster. Like I've said, if you have conviction, if you understand it, this is a non-issue. The cons: slower exposure, might miss early gains. Now this is important. Now, for example, for me, as someone who understands Bitcoin and I believe it will keep going up, and I have a long-term vision, I want to invest in it for the long term, I am not gonna dollar cost average because it lowers my exposure. If I have a sum of money, I'm gonna buy it all in Bitcoin right away because I know that like even in 6 months or a year from now, Bitcoin is gonna be way higher than it is now. So I might miss early gains. I might miss entry at a lower price. So that's why I personally do not dollar cost average. But this is, just for educational purposes and to each his own preference. There is also the hybrid strategy. I mean, if you don't want a dollar cost, if you want to do both and you are not comfortable by only one strategy, you can adopt a hybrid strategy, which is you divide your capital in half and you invest $600 now, you buy it lump sum, and then $100 each month for 6 months. So this is also a strategy that you can do. Pros is balanced exposure, captures early gains, reduces risk versus full lump sum. Of course, for me, I don't see any risk with Bitcoin. But again, if you have doubts, if you are not fully convinced with it, if you haven't done your homework, maybe you think there is some kind of risk. Now, I'm not saying there is no risk at all. There might be some kind of black swan kind of risk, but for now, I think there is no potential risk. And let's face it, I mean, if you don't take risks, you're not going to gain anything. I mean, as men, we have to be risk takers. And Bitcoin is not a risky venture at all. But yeah, everything has the kind of black swan kind of risk. So let's look at a simulation results. I actually asked ChatGPT to create a simulation results based on the data from 2023. And as you can see here, we have 3 lines. Lump sum in orange, DCA in the dark orange, and hybrid in pink. And if you see, the lump sum strategy is the best performing strategy. It's the best performing strategy in 2023. DCA at last, it's the worst strategy, dollar cost averaging. And the hybrid is better because hybrid, you put upfront 600 and then you buy 100 each month for 6 months. So for this simulation in 2023, the best strategy is the lump sum. So lump sum grew the fastest in a rising market. DCA, $100 a month, lagged slightly but was steadier. Hybrid, 600 upfront and then 100 for 6 months, sat in between, offering both early exposure and risk spreading. If the market rises consistently, lump sum wins. If it's choppy or falling, DCA or hybrid protects you better. But again, if your goal is long-term investment, you shouldn't care about the market falling in the short term. You shouldn't care about that at all. You shouldn't lose sleep over it. Okay? I mean, Bitcoin just last month, it dipped to 76 or 74, if I remember correctly, and I didn't lose sleep over it. I didn't panic at all. In fact, I bought more Bitcoin. So, yeah. This is a Bitcoin investment strategy, early dip, then recovery. So, yeah, if Bitcoin dips, again, not the DCA, sorry. The hybrid strategy performs better if Bitcoin dips in the short term. But again, this is just short term. It's just 2023. But if we look at like 10 years, I'm pretty sure lump sum is gonna be the best performing strategy. So here, like in 1 year, if the Bitcoin dips, hybrid is better, and then comes the DCA, and then finally the lump sum. So in this scenario where Bitcoin dips early and then recovers, the result changes. So DCA performs best because it buys more BTC at lower prices during the dip. Hybrid does well too, balancing early exposure and averaging in during the downturn. Lump sum suffers initially and takes longer to recover since $1,200 was invested before the dip. So if you expect volatility or a possible short-term drop, DCA or a hybrid strategy offers better protection. This is for 1 year time frame, but I always suggest invest in Bitcoin for the long term. So you shouldn't be worried about short term drops in price. Next simulation, we have Bitcoin long-term investment strategies. Now, here's what I said. So this one is based off the data from 2015 to 2024. So as you can see clearly, lump sum $1,200 in January of 2015 is the best performing strategy. After it comes the hybrid strategy, because of course you put 600 at first, and all the profits of 600 are going to compound and make more profits, whereas the rest that you're gonna invest later is not gonna compound as much as the first 600. And of course, DCA is the least performing, the least the least strategy that's the not so good performing strategy, let's just say. So yeah, this chart shows that over 10 years period, lump sum dominates because it captures the full upside from the beginning. Hybrid performs well, better than DCA. And DCA, dollar cost averaging, grows steadily but lags as much of the capital gets invested later when prices are already higher. In strong long-term growth scenarios like Bitcoin's, early exposure wins. Lump sum is clearly the most effective if you are playing the long game and can stomach the ride. And of course, if you got your principles, if you understand the solid fundamentals of Bitcoin, if you've done your homework, if you invested a few hours to learn how it works and why it's anti-fragile and robust, then you should be playing for the long game. Conclusion, if you are confident and long-term focused, like me, like you, who are watching this channel, go lump sum. If you are cautious or risk averse, DCA or hybrid provides peace of mind. So yeah, that's all I have to say in this video. Wherever you are in your Bitcoin journey, if you are new to this, maybe you can start with DCA. If you are like in the middle, you've been into Bitcoin, but you still think it has some risk, you still have some doubts, you are still not fully convinced, maybe you can do hybrid. But if you are a Bitcoin maximalist, go lump sum, buy as much as you can, as soon as you can. And, and that's all you have to do. And you're gonna reap what you saw now in the future, and you're gonna be profitable, and you're gonna become wealthy and not rich, but wealthy, hopefully. So yeah, that's all I have to say in this video. Let me guys know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, subscribe to my channel, send it to a friend or two, and see you in the next one. Take care.